Welcome to the 7th and 8th grade middle school band concert. Please rise if you are able and join us in our national anthem.
We will open our portion of the show with intensity. It is an aggressive and intense concert work with lots of rhythmic energy and strong melodic statements. These statements are the trademark of the music. You will hear melodic fragments until the momentum drives the piece to a rousing and intense finish. Here is intensity.
A Whole New World is a song from Disney's 1992 animated feature film Aladdin. With music by Alan Meakin and lyrics by Tim Rice, the song is a ballad between the primary characters, Aladdin and Jasmine, about the new world they're going to discover together while riding on Aladdin's magic carpet. The original version was sung by Brad Kane and Leah Salonga during the film. They also performed the song and their characters at the 65th Academy Awards, where it won an Academy Award for Best Original Song, as well as the first and so far only Disney song to win a Grammy Award for Song of the Year at the 36th Annual Grammy Awards.
You will see noted in the program the students who were part of the UMD Junior High Honor Band that took place in February. One of the pieces that was worked on that day was The Tempest. We would like to share that piece with you today. The Tempest is a programmatic work meant to depict a breaking storm at sea. The piece begins with a legato clarinet and low woodwind voices. The other instruments join in the same form until the storm begins to pick up. The horns, trombones, saxophones, and clarinets play an accented quarter note melody, while the other winds and percussion play a sparse accented accompaniment.
Flutes and later trumpets play a dancing, skittering ostinato, perhaps emblematic of swirling winds at sea. This ostinato is juxtaposed against the opening lyrical line, "Maybe the water of the sea," for a nice contrasting effect. As the piece continues to develop, voices become more agitated, writing becomes thicker, and accents become heavier.
Finally, the entire band builds up with a crescendo, ending with a dissonant major and veil that does not let up, until the ending on a trumpet fortissimo. Here is The Tempest.
Here's another showcase number from the popular On the Run series by James D. Ployhar. The trombones are standing and ready to demonstrate their unique sliding ability. The melody has all of the elements of ragtime music and treats you to some foot tapping and hand clapping rhythms. In addition, the tune explores some of the cliches so typical of trombone and tuba parts that I've heard time and again throughout the years. The number concludes with a slow blues outro and a long record-breaking glissando. Here is Trombones on the Run. Dark Ride is intended to evoke the experience one might feel on a moonlit night, riding through a darkened forest. The shadows stretch out across the ground, the wind howls, and owls may be heard hooting in the distance. Suddenly, a twig snaps behind you. You race into the darkness, fleeing from whatever made that sound. This work was commissioned for the Liberty High School Band of Colorado Springs, Colorado, by the friends and family of Scott Singmaster in celebration of his many years of service in music education. The work is not intended to be reflective of him, but rather the excitement that he inspired in his students for music. Here's Dark Ride.
We will finish our part of the night with concert with Louie Louie, which is a rock and roll anthem by the King's Men. Our version of the song has an up-tempo nature and a familiar riff from the original, with features the trumpets section with iconic solo. Here's Louie Louie.
Welcome to the 8th grade band portion of tonight's concert.
It was just 2 short years ago we walked out on the stage to perform our first concert.
If you remember, we wowed you with the tune We Will Rock You.
Tonight we thought it would be appropriate to play the same tune for you as it is our last time on the stage as 8th grade band.
This version will be more suitable for an 8th grade band, and you will also hear some other Queen favorites. Here's the best of Queen.
The exciting, emotional, powerful music from the DreamWorks film has taken on a life of its own.
Here is an adaptation for middle school bands by Johnny Vinson that includes the tender lyricism as well as dramatic, heroic moments of the original. We hope you enjoy highlights from How to Train Your Dragon.
Henry Purcell's March in Canzona was originally written for the funeral of Queen Mary II in 1695, are powerful examples of Baroque funeral music. The march in C minor was originally scored for a quartet of trumpets and drums, creating a somber and stately atmosphere. He also uses simple, almost note-against-note settings, which conveys a sense of dignity and pathos. The chromaticism, which is the use of notes outside of the key, adds a sense of emotional weight and intensity to the music. Here's the March and Canzona by Henry Purcell.
The iconic James Bond theme, composed by Marty Norman, is a distinctive and instantly recognizable piece of music. It is primarily known for its driving, surf rock-inspired rhythm and signature descending mode-off in the guitar. The theme's popularity stems from its use in the first James Bond movie, Dr. No, and it's become a coincidental symbol of franchise. Mr. Hanson will play along with us during the theme.
What makes a classic James Bond song? A sense of the epic, surely flaring brace, rippling woodwinds, and a melody-driven framework, an irresistible hook. Paul McCartney and Wings' Live and Let Die, written for the 8th installment of the film franchise, certainly ticks the right boxes of the original Bond songs. Live and Let Die remains one of the best loved.
Our last theme is from the blockbuster film Skyfall. Pop sensation Adele has created an approximately exciting mood, who aimed to capture the mood and style of the other Bond themes, including dark and moody lyrics descriptive of the film's plot. Skyfall received universal acclaim from music critics and was a major commercial success.
Thank you. Hi. All right, before our final two pieces, I want to take time to thank all the students here in 7th and 8th grade. This time of year is always exciting and can be very stressful preparing for a concert. The 8th graders even asked me to dress up like a conductor. We have a train song coming up. I got that wrong. So, sorry. Bring a hat? I mean, this is okay. Anyway, this is what a real conductor looks like. All right. But these students continue to impress me year after year and what they can do musically. I see how much work they put in when they come into the practice rooms outside of their regular classes. It's great to see them during their lesson times and band rehearsals to work on their music. This is in addition to all the other work, schoolwork, sports, family time, their very busy lives. So I want to thank the students, the parents, families for your continued support and supporting music and the arts and still making music an important part of our lives. Thank you for the lights and the sound, John just said, and Raven, thank you so much for all the lights tonight and lighting. Awesome. Thank the administration for keeping the importance of music education in our schools. My musical colleagues, Regina Romehild, Rachel Holte, Katie Beitart, Rhonda Card, Tyler Corby, Cam Linder, and Kevin Huseth for inspiring and continuing to inspire students through music time and time again. So enjoy these last two pieces. Here's Maddie.
In the early years of the Civil War, Georgia was largely protected from military hostilities, leaving it free to ship arms and munitions, food and supplies to Confederate troops on the battlefields to the northeast. It was the importance of the extensive rail system to the Confederates that prompted James Andrews, a Union spy from Kentucky, to attempt a daring effort to disrupt the 138-mile rail line connecting Atlanta to Chattanooga. Along with 19 Union soldiers dressed as civilians, Andrews arrived at Marietta April 12, 1862. Here they boarded a northbound train pulled by the general, a wood-burning locomotive built in 1855. At Big Shanty, the train stopped so the passengers and crew could eat breakfast. Andrews used the brake to uncouple the engine, wood tender, and 3 box cars from the passenger cars. They then sped off with the goal of damaging as much W&A tracks and rail bridges as possible. Hearing the general steam out, conductor William Fuller and 2 W&A employees ran out of the hotel dining room and pursued the stolen train by foot for several miles. Ultimately, Fuller would commandeer the locomotive Texas and, joined by the Confederate soldiers, finally catch Andrews' Raiders erase Joel Chandler Harris, later characterized as the boldest adventure of the war. Here is the great locomotive chase.
Thank you for coming tonight. We will finish our portion of the concert with "We Are Not Gonna Take It," a song by Twisted Sister with an underlying message about everybody's freedom and rights, said writer D. Snyder. But its meaning is intentionally open to interpretation. This year we learned this song to use as one of our new pep pieces for the Unified Phi Ed events. Thank you for attending tonight's concert.